Think about how much fun Ohio State's defense will be to watch once the Buckeyes hit midseason form.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a hump day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, here on Wednesday, September 11th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate GM. Ultimate College Football HC is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Begin your coaching legacy today. Before we get too deep into today's show, I want to take some time to just stop and think about and reflect on what happened on September 11th, 2001, where there were thousands of people that were either on a plane going to their next destination. Maybe they were going home, or there were people that went to work. A lot of these people did not make it to their next destination. They did not make it home from work because their lives were tragically taken away from them. The terrorist attack, the World Trade Centers got hit with planes, and it was just a horrible, tragic day. I was in 7th grade, and I remember the history teacher turning on the TV at the end of the period, at the end of first period, and I looked at the TV. I saw what was happening. I had no idea. I had never seen those buildings before, the World Trade Centers in New York City. I had no idea exactly the magnitude of what was going on, but what I saw, I knew it shouldn't have been happening. We still reflect and think about what took place that day and remember what happened and look to continue to make strides to protect those in our country. Ohio State's defense is fun to watch, a lot of fun to watch. You can classify it as elite, as fierce, as very hard to crack. You can't crack this code. It's a very tough one. Yeah, the Buckeyes have played 2 MAC schools, but neither MAC school was able to get anything going offensively. Akron, Western Michigan, they had the same story. Neither team scored a touchdown, and one of them got shut out. And it made me think about what Ohio State's defense will be once the Buckeyes hit midseason form. It's going to be fun for us and scare for the opposition, because think about if you are an opposing defensive coordinator. Let's say you are the OC at one of the Big Ten schools that Ohio State plays, or you're the DC at Marshall, just anybody else on the schedule. And you're saying, okay, through 2 games, Ohio State's defense has done X, Y, and Z. You begin to start to put together a game plan to try to crack the code, and you're seeing, well, wait a minute. In this sequence, they used 7 different defensive linemen, and there was no drop-off, or the drop-off was not so significant that you can see, well, if these guys are here, we can do this. Or you see, wait, they got 4 linebackers? Yeah, they play 3 mainly, but they got 4, and there really isn't a significant drop-off from there. And then you wait, okay, you got the 3 starting corners, then you got this guy named Jermaine Matthews Jr., and you keep watching the film, and you say, well, what about Aaron Scott Jr.? You just got so many guys. It's going to be hard for anybody to stop. I mean, what Ryan Day has done this year, what Jim Knowles is working with, is one of those units that coaches dream about having, and it's in Columbus, Ohio this year. There will be numerous guys drafted off this defense, and we'll be able to look at the end of the season if things continue to go like they have, if the Buckeyes continue to improve week after week like they have from week 1 to week 2. We can look back at one point and say, this might be one of the best defenses Ohio State has had in a very long time. And think about 2019. The Buckeyes had a defensive end in Chase Young who was a Heisman finalist. That is one of those things that is rarely heard of. Many of you may say, oh, well, Nick Bosa in 2018, if he did not get hurt with that abdominal injury and decide to leave Columbus to prepare for the NFL draft, he may have been. Unfortunately, the injury bug got in the way. Nick Bosa, I'm a Joey Bosa guy. Joey Bosa wasn't doing the same thing. He was great, don't get me wrong, but Chase Young was just doing some stuff that got you all that attention. Think about all of the guys on the 2019 defense, and you're saying that defense was great. And this one, I know it's early. I'm not saying it's going to be that way. I'm not going to get hyperbolic, but it's possible that this defense can make some noise like that 2019 team did all season long. By the numbers, the Buckeyes compared to other elite defenses in the country, the numbers say through the early part of the year, The Buckeyes defense, by the numbers, is one of the best too. The numbers pass the test, and so does the eye test. So far this year, Ohio State is is second. So on the second fewest yards allowed for the opponent. They are tied with fourth with opponents' points per game. They have they are tied for sixth with the most sacks in the season. They are seventh in the country in opponents' passing yards per game at 100.5. They're ninth in the country in opponents' yards and passing yards allowed at 201. That's a total. They've only allowed 201 passing yards for the season, and the opposition is quickly in obvious passing situations. They are ninth in the country with rushing yards allowed with 75. They are sixth in the country with opponents' rushing yards per game at 37.5. And they're tied for fourth in points allowed with 6. They've only given up 6 points. So our eyeballs are telling us the Buckeyes are doing elite things. But by the numbers, they are no worse than ninth in these categories. They're not one in any of them, which that's fine. But if you're number 2 in yards allowed and you're tied for fourth in points allowed, total points allowed, and you're tied for 6th in sacks, that only tells me that the guys are doing a lot of the things right. They're hitting their keys. They're controlling the point of attack. They are controlling the line of scrimmage or even altering the line of scrimmage and pushing it back into the backfield. Watch out everybody else. Ryan Day said during a recent presser that he is impressed with the energy that the defense is playing with. Guys are flying around. It's guys knocking back the line of scrimmage. And he also said this, quote, "They pretty much dominated like we thought they could," end quote. So it's not just doing what the coaches what you think you can do. You're doing what the coaches think you can do. So the coaches are saying, we think this can happen, and it's actually happening. What is that going to do during practice, especially during an improvement week? These coaches are going to be poking and pushing buttons, trying to get more out of all the guys out there on the field because there's more to give. The Buckeyes are not playing at the best ball on defense. They can play. I believe there's a level that the Buckeyes can play, or maybe this is what they are. No matter who the opponent is, they're just going to stifle and squeeze the life out of the opposing offense. So there's no more life for them to try to give. I don't exactly know, but I do know when you have the guys up front, and Ty Hamilton is one of those guys that gets lost in the sauce. When we talk about the Buckeyes defensive line, a lot of times, Tyleik Williams, Jack Sawyer, Toy Malowau. Sometimes you may even go Mitchell Melton, Caden Curry, Keanu Jackson Jr., Hero Canoe, Cade McDonald. You may go with all those guys. You may go with the first 3, bring up somebody else, and they say, oh, Ty Hamilton. Oh, Ty Hamilton did not have to stay at Ohio State. He could have transferred or tried to go to the NFL, or he could have done that. But what did he do? He stuck it out. He stayed at Ohio State, and he's trying to do something that Devon Hamilton, his brother, did during his time in Columbus. Make your final year so good you parlay it and push it into getting drafted and going and making a career in the National Football League because of how you played your last year in Columbus. Ty Hamilton, to me, before the year, is probably going to be more of a restricted free agent at the end of the year, next year's NFL draft. I did not think he was going to be drafted, but the way he is attacking and playing in the middle of the Buckeyes defensive line, he may very well propel this into getting drafted into the National Football League, which is one of the ultimate goals. That is a step. Then playing, making a long career out of it, those are the rest of the steps, part of them. But Ty Hamilton is a big reason why this defense is playing the way that it is. Not only the defense is playing very well, but Chip Kelly has added some needed wrinkles to the Buckeyes running game, and Ryan Day likes them. This episode is brought to you by Ultimate College Football HC. Hey, Locked On Buckeyes fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you are going to love as much as I do. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and even handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, you know we got a special offer for Locked On Buckeyes fans. Use the promo code Locked On CFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up on the app stores. Begin your coaching legacy today. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Of course, Game Time Picks is not taking away from the already phenomenal different avenues that Game Time has to help you customize the way and make your ticket purchasing process really easy. They also still have the ability to get a panoramic view from your seat. They got the lowest price guarantee, and you know they got that Game Time ticket coverage too. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. We knew that Ryan Day was going to put a needed emphasis on running the ball this year. You first go out there and say, hey, I'm not going to call plays. I'm going to go out there and get a coach that I trust to take over running the Buckeyes offense and calling plays this year. You go out there and get Bill O'Brien. Ultimately, Bill O'Brien took a job shortly after that to become the head coach at Boston College. I think there were some family emergencies and some major health concerns with his family that maybe added to why he took the job in Boston College. Also more money involved too, even so that's an added factor. But Bill O'Brien was gone. Chip Kelly got hired, or it was announced that Chip Kelly would be the offensive coordinator the same day that Bill O'Brien announced he was leaving. And when you bring in Chip Kelly, everybody knows that Chip Kelly is going to put an emphasis on running the football. Well, there has been a thought and a belief that Ohio State needed to run the ball a whole lot more than they had over the previous few years. And we know how Ryan Day says, oh, this needs to happen and that needs to happen. And sometimes it does happen, sometimes it does not. Well, Ryan Day went out there and got a guy in Chip Kelly that he trusts with his life, and trusting him with his life, he trusts him to call plays, to control the offense. And we now see the Buckeyes run game in such a way through the first 2 games in the year. There's some wrinkles that I like. Ryan Day likes them too. And ultimately, this is what you want. You want a guy to run the offense that is accomplishing the goals that you have, but also can add in some needed wrinkles to the offense. It's also a luxury when you have a quarterback like Will Howard. Not the best thrower of the football. He's no Michael Vick with his legs either, but he gets the job done. He has full command of the offense. He understands what is needed of him as the Buckeyes quarterback. He is elusive. He's able to sidestep and swipe defenders to continue to extend plays with his legs. But also, a part of running the ball more is Ryan Day wanted the quarterback to be involved in the run game. Not handing it off as that part of being involved in the run game, but hey, and read option here, keeping the RPO game as lethal as it needs to be. And we saw that on full display over the weekend in that shutout, massive blowout win over Western Michigan on Saturday. But even the Buckeyes running a little speed option, Justin Fields was at Ohio State for a couple of years. I don't remember him running the speed option. CJ Stroud, not the athlete that Fields is, he can run the speed option. Didn't do it. I wouldn't ask McCord to, but he also didn't do it either. So the fact that we're seeing the speed option now, it was not something that Ohio State did previously, that is a wrinkle. But think about what we have right now. Ohio State tries at times previously two running backs. It was kind of a two-headed monster between Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams for a couple of years. Unfortunately, in those time periods, them bad boys got hurt. So you saw Chip Trainum get some run. You saw Donald Hayden get some run. First, Chip Trainum had to go from linebacker back to running back that he played at Arizona State. And so there was a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that were not consistent due to the injury bug really hitting that RB room hard. Well, so far right now, the only injury that the Buckeyes running backs room has endured is to TC Coffey, a walk-on running back who still people thought would play this year. And so when you have that be reality, the top four guys are different. They're on scholarship, unlike Coffey, who was not. I wish he was. But the bottom two guys are guys that are new to college football. And I think what we have seen so far in this year, you're probably going to split carries evenly, or maybe one guy may have one or two carries more between Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. If the Buckeyes need James Peoples to run the ball or to play 3 to 5 snaps, 5 to 8 snaps, that 8's a max, probably 3 to 5 snaps a game, carry the ball a couple times, I think he's showing he is getting up to speed with college football. Got to work on that ball security, but he is built ready for the moment, and the Buckeyes really like what they're getting from James Peoples right now. Ohio State has a luxury. You got Chip Kelly, you got Ryan Day, you have two of the best offensive minds in the game. They also have the luxury to have the best backfield, the top two running back duo in tandem in the country, in Judkins and Henderson. If the Buckeyes continue to use those two guys right and to run the ball the way that they need to, and to keep of that too, and as Chip Kelly figures out, okay, different ways to utilize the backs and the quarterback at Ohio State, just how lethal it's going to be for the Buckeyes defense when the Buckeyes defense can be, this run game can be lethal too. Now, I'm not one saying that the Buckeyes are going to have two guys go over 100,000 yards rushing in a season. It's definitely possible. If the Buckeyes accomplish their goals, they could play 16 games this year. If they, of course, win conference, get that bye, and then play in the playoff, win the Natty, playing 16 games. So realistically, do I think the Buckeyes and Judkins and Henderson, do I think in 16 games they could eclipse the 1,000-yard rushing mark? Yeah, I do. I think both guys can. Which makes this whole conversation so difficult if you're on the other side of it. Not if you're on our side. If you're on our side, you love this thing. You love the ability that Chip Kelly, in the way that he's adding wrinkles and he's changing things up. And Chip Kelly is really making the RPO a true threat. Because one of our complaints a year ago, right here on this show, myself, Jeff Hunt, and even Mo Murphy, we haven't done a trio together on the show, but I've done shows with Jeff, I've done shows with Mo, and we all have said the same thing. I think Jeff said it more. If you got an RPO and your quarterback is not a run threat, it's really not a true triple threat. You're either faking it to the running back or throwing the ball. The quarterback is not the third option. They're still running a variation of a triple option. It's just not the old school triple option where you're faking the dive, going down the line, reading the pitch man, either pitching it to the back, maybe you want to fake it to the back and then cut up field, whatever it may be. RPO is a version of a triple option, and let me tell you, we have seen that bad boy in action so far this year. It's fun to watch, and it's one of those weapons that Chip Kelly is going to use a lot this season. One thing we're going to get a lot this season on this show is the stock watch, baby. The stock watch is back, stock up, stock down after the Buckeyes' massive shutout of Western Michigan in week 2 and in the middle of an improvement week. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet only $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Wait a minute, I got to backtrack. That's too good to pass up. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. Everything you need for in-home and even backyard entertainment, it's at Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Austin, Canada, Billiards, and more. They are family owned and operated. And when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you're going to know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole entire staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. The Stock Watch is back once again. You got a little stock up, got a little bit of a stock down. Stock down is a little bit different than normal because, man, this is one of those weeks where we can't really, if we try to nitpick, ain't a lot of stuff to pick when we do try to be a little nitpicky. So let's go to the positive, and the negative is going to have a little bit of a different twist. Stock up on Jeremiah Smith once again. The true freshman wide receiver leads Ohio State in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. He's only played 2 college football games in his life. He just turned 18. Speaking of the RPO in the previous segment of the show, that touchdown that he had was an RPO. The handoff did not get handed to, I believe it was Henderson on the play. You had Carnell Tate out in the flat to the right, like in the sight. In the sight. He was open of Will Howard. The next thing you know, Will Howard throws the ball over the middle in the middle of 3 defenders to Jeremiah Smith, and then Jeremiah Smith quickly got out of that thing. His feet did not fail him all the way on this first trip to Pater in that game. 70 yards, touchdown to Jeremiah Smith. And I said something yesterday. I'm going to say it again today. Jeremiah Smith will break records this year. Chris Carter holds records for his freshman year at Ohio State. I believe it's 41 receptions, 648 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith's going to break those records, probably smash those records, and we'll be looking back and saying, this, as long as everything goes well, he does not get hurt, this is, or will be at the end of the day, the best year, single season, a freshman receiver has ever had at Ohio State. Stock up on Quinshon Judkins. Speaking of the running game in the previous segment, Quinshon Judkins was a big part of that over the weekend. And we have been waiting, and of course, waiting. It's only been 2 games, but people knew, just like Jeremiah Smith, there's been a lot of talk. We had more film, and actually, we had actual film on Quinshon Judkins in college football from what he did down there at Ole Miss. We knew what Judkins could do. But, man, let me tell you, it's a whole lot of fun to actually see it in action in the Scarlet and Gray. So far this year, he has 22 carries, 163 rushing yards, 7.4 yards a pop, and 3 rushing touchdowns. Him and Henderson are going to make a lot of people look foolish if they're on the defense, the opposition of Ohio State. They're going to make a lot of Ohio State fans feel really, really good, because no matter which back is out there, number 32 or number 1, they both can get the job done. Stock up on Austin Siereveld. I mean, literally, what do we like? When I found out, when it was announced a couple hours before the Akron game that Donovan Jackson would not be available during that game, I am thinking, okay, the offensive line's already going to be a work in progress. You're going to have 3 new guys on the interior of the O-line with McLaughlin at center and Shabola at right guard. Oh, man. A little confused, and I thought the left guard was going to be the weak link. And even if Siereveld is the weak link of the offensive line when he is out there, that weak link is pretty strong for a guy who was starting his first game against Akron, didn't play a year ago. He definitely looks like someone that has played previously in college football, that has started multiple games previously in college football. He quickly got up to speed, quickly got to the speed of the game, the physicality of the game, and we see him moving around, pulling, blocking his man 4, 5, 6, 7 yards downfield, finishing blocks. Austin, hey, man, hey, I got to clap it up. I'm a critic of offensive line play. I'm not the aficionado at all, by no means, no stretch of the imagination. But I can pick up a lot of things going on the offensive line. Austin Siereveld, he's not really putting a lot of stuff out there for me to say, oh, bro, you just need to be, you're a liability. He's not doing that. Clap it up for this young man. Stock down, and this is a little bit weird because CJ Hicks may not be the third linebacker like we thought going into the season. The thing is, though, he only played 12 plays last game, 12 snaps, and I'm thinking 12 snaps the previous game. From what we thought, what we heard, oh, if he's aggressive, and we thought if he's blitzing, and if he's doing a lot of the things that, well, a more aggressive linebacker would excel at, he would be fine, which is true. But the Buckeyes still need more of that consistency. In the offseason, Ryan Day called out Jaden Ballard in a press conference and said they need JB to step up. Now, I don't know if Ryan Day will go to that length with CJ Hicks, saying he needs to step up, but he definitely is comfortable saying they need more consistency from the linebacker. You can't just be a linebacker that's great at blitzing and not be consistent in other areas because you struggle to stay on the field consistently, and that might be what happens to Hicks. I'm not saying it will be. There's still games to be played, and time will tell what actually is going to happen. But, man, stock down on CJ Hicks. Can I just say stock down on the Buckeyes not playing this weekend? I do think the 2 bye weeks in a season is a good thing for Ohio State. I don't think it's going to be a normal thing where they move the calendar and move games up so that there's 2 bye weeks in every single season. And this is even before there being a 12-team playoff. I think even in a 14 playoff, if you had 2 bye weeks, one not playing 2 games in a bye week or an off week, but you play 3, maybe 4 games, you're off, and then you play maybe 3 more games, and then you're off again. I think that's great. And now when you add in the possibility of playing 17 games in a season, the human body is going to desire that extra off week. The NFL is very close, and I think it will go to an 18 game season. And I think Joe Burrow suggested to have there be 2 off weeks or 2 bye weeks, and I'd be cool with that in the NFL. Or if you're going to do that with the NFL, do that same thing in college when there's a possibility of playing that many games. Now, maybe you're a fan listening to this and you're not a fan of a school that is going to make the playoff consistently. That's okay. Still implement the 2 off weeks. I think coaches would enjoy it. I think players would enjoy it. But after 2 games in an off week, the coaches might not like that. But just stock off, just in general, not even for just no Buckeye football on a Saturday. It's going to feel weird. But many of you will be like me, spending time with your family. Maybe some of you have listed projects around the home. Maybe you are going to watch college football all Saturday long, sit on the couch and just have your drink, get your food, and replenish that thing when it's needed to watch ball all day. Yeah, Alabama, Wisconsin early. I will be watching. It's maybe a little bit odd, but I will be watching IU and UCLA in the evening in prime time. IU's going out there. Indiana's going out there to the Rose Bowl, and I'm rooting for Kurt Signetti. My mom's actually an IU grad, so that's an added reason to root for the Hoosiers in this game. But I'm rooting hard for IU, man, because I want IU to do well, except for when they play in Ohio State. I want IU to do well. So for that game, the Bruins were going down. The Hoosiers waved that red flag all around the Rose Bowl on Saturday night after y'all beat UCLA. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On College Football Podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football in the description, so y'all don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're out of here on a hump day, Buckeye fans. Remember September 11th and the things that happened on this day. Reflect and make sure you are looking out for your people. Tell the people you love them and mean it when you say it. We're out here on a Wednesday. We'll see you next time.